I'm going to define some of the most common terms in the world of EVs and explain, at the surface level, what each one actually does. If you've started shopping for one, you've already hit a wall of letters and numbers: KW, KWH, LFP, NMC, NACS, DC fast charging. Some look similar, but aren't. So this video will clear all of that up, so that the next time you're talking about your new EV with friends and family, you can actually explain what a KWH is when they ask. So I'll start right away with the big one, the one you probably clicked this thumbnail for. KWH versus KW. Here's the whole trick. Kilowatt hour is the size of your gas tank. Kilowatt is how fast the pump fills it. One tells you how far you can go, the other tells you how long you'll wait at the charger. So let's clear the whole list up. I'm going to take every term that actually matters and sort it into 5 simple groups: how far it goes, how fast it charges, what you plug into, what's inside the battery, and how long it'll last. We already met this one. A kilowatt hour is the size of the battery, your gas tank. A small EV might be around 40 kilowatt hours, a big one, 100 or more. More kilowatt hours usually means more range and more weight and a bigger price tag. So bigger isn't automatically better, it's just more tank. Here's the catch most people miss. The battery has a total size, but the car maker locks away a slice of it to protect it. So a battery sold as 64 kilowatt hours might only give you around 60 to actually drive on. And car makers aren't consistent about which number they print. Some, like Tesla, basically just quote the usable figure. Others advertise the total, or land somewhere in between. And Chevy's number is kind of neither. A few list both. Quick real example. The little Mini Cooper Electric has about 32.5 kilowatt hour total, but only around 29 you actually drive on. So when you're comparing two cars, make sure you're comparing usable to usable, not the bigger brochure number. This is the one I wish more people looked at. Efficiency. Efficiency is how much energy the car uses to cover a set distance. You'll see it labeled a few ways: straight kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers, or as a gas equivalent, MPGE, miles per gallon equivalent in the US, and here in Canada, LE per 100 kilometers, which is liters equivalent per 100 kilometers. However it's written, it's basically the EV version of fuel economy. A more efficient car costs less to run and needs less battery to go the same distance. Two EVs can have the exact same size battery and very different real-world range, and efficiency is usually why. Here's a quick one. State of charge is just how full the battery is right now, as a percentage. It's your fuel gauge, and it matters more than you think because how full the battery is actually changes how fast it charges. Range is how far you go on a full charge, but the same car shows different numbers depending on who tested it. In the US, you'll see EPA. In Europe, WLTP, which tends to be optimistic. Here in Canada, our official numbers come from NRCan. And they're all lab numbers. In the real world, especially in a Canadian winter, plan on landing under the sticker. Cold weather can cut range by 30 to 40%, so when we're shopping for our EV, we made sure we could get to work and back on about 50% of the car's rated range. That takes the edge off range anxiety, and it leaves room for the natural range loss that comes as the battery ages. I've got a whole video on that, so I won't dive in here, but I'll link it in the description in case you want to watch it after this one. So those numbers are the big ones for range and capacity. KWH, your battery tank or size, usable versus total, what you actually drive on, efficiency, the EV's fuel economy, your MPGE or LE per 100 kilometers, state of charge, how full you are right now, and the range rating, your government's official test number. On to charging. You get asked about this a lot as an EV owner. Usually you can just say 10 to 80% in something like 20 or 30 minutes. And that's usually enough to satisfy people. But you're here because you want to know more. So let's start with kilowatt. Kilowatt is the other half of our opening pair. If kilowatt hour is the size of the tank, kilowatt is how fast the pump fills it. It's the rate of power. A regular wall plug at home only trickles in a kilowatt or two. A proper home charger may be up around 10 or 11. And a highway fast charger might push 150, 250, maybe even more. Same battery, wildly different weight. That's a good segue to levels. Level 1, Level 2, Level 3. That range of speed comes in 3 levels. Level 1 is a regular household outlet, which is the slowest, fine for topping up overnight if you don't drive much. Level 2 is the 240 volt kind you put in your garage or find in a parking lot. This is what most owners actually use day to day. Level 3, DC fast charging, is the highway stuff that gets you most of the way back in half an hour or so. Rule of thumb, Level 2 at home and Level 3 on the road. Onboard charger. Here's a sneaky one. On Level 2, the car limits how fast it'll accept power. That's the onboard charger, rated in kilowatts, often around 7 to 11. So 2 cars plugged into the exact same home charger can charge at different speeds, because one has a bigger onboard charger. It's worth checking if home charging speed matters to you. Volts and amps. You'll see these on chargers and spec sheets. Keep it simple. Volts and amps are the 2 ingredients of power. Multiply them and you get watts. And 1,000 watts is a kilowatt. Here's the part actually worth knowing as a buyer. EVs come in roughly 2 camps, 400 volt and 800 volt. And because power is volts times amps, an 800 volt car can move the same power while pulling half the current, the amps. Less current means less heat, and less heat means it can safely charge faster on a strong enough station. That's why you'll see 800 volt cars posting those headline 10 to 80 times. Most EVs today are still 400 volt, simpler, cheaper, while 800 volt shows up more on premium and newer models, and Hyundais. The charging curve. This is where marketing gets slippery. When a car advertises 250 kilowatts, that's a peak it holds for a few minutes when the battery is low and warm, not the whole session. As the battery fills, the speed tapers off. The shape is the charging curve. The honest question was never the peak number, it's how long it takes to go from about 10 to 80%. Which is exactly why fast charging times are quoted 10 to 80, not 0 to 100. The last stretch charges slowly on purpose to protect the battery. So on a road trip, you usually unplug around 80 and then keep moving. When you compare cars, compare their 10 to 80 times, not their peak kilowatt. So quick recap on charging speed. Kilowatt is how fast the power flows. Levels 1, 2, and 3 are your 3 speeds, which is, your home outlet, 240 volt home or public, and highway DC fast. Your onboard charger caps your level 2 speed. Volts and amps and the 400 versus 800 volt split are why some cars charge faster. The charging curve means the peak number isn't the whole story, and 10 to 80 is the time that actually matters. Real quick, if you're getting value out of this video, hit that like button and consider subscribing. It genuinely does help my channel. Okay, what you actually plug into. This part changed recently, so it is worth 60 seconds. NACS, also called SAE J3400. This is the big story. The connector Tesla used to keep to itself is now the official North American standard, called J3400, though most people still say NACS. Right now, it's the plug most new EVs on this continent are shipping with. Sort of like how phones all moved to USB-C, this is the USB-C of EV charging. The plug it's replacing is CCS. That stands for Combined Charging System, and in North America, CCS1. If NACS is the USB-C, this is the Lightning cable. Millions of EVs sold from roughly 2020 to 2024 use it, and plenty of fast chargers still have it. We're in a mixed stretch for the next couple of years where both are still around. So if you're buying used, check which plug the car has. For everyday level 2 charging, home and public, the standard plug is J1772. Think of it as the slow and steady everyday plug, separate from fast charging drama. Now you might see CHAdeMO on older cars, mainly the first generation Nissan Leaf. It's the fading fast charging plug. Consider this one the micro USB of the bunch. If a used car only has CHAdeMO, just know the network for it is shrinking. Because we're mid-transition, adapters are everywhere right now. A little dongle that lets a newer car use an older station, or the other way around. It's not glamorous, but It's how everyone's getting by until this settles. I've got a couple of adapters myself. I saved a bunch of money buying a used EV with a CCS port, and these let me use the NACS chargers too. And the nice one is plug and charge. At stations that support it, you literally just plug in. The car and the charger sort out who you are and bill you automatically. No app, no tapping a card in the cold, but even a quick tap is faster than downloading an app. I was just on a road trip with the family, and my wife and I were stopped at a charger late at night trying to download the app with bad service, and then it wouldn't take our credit card. We did eventually sort it out, but it was about 20 minutes of troubleshooting before we even started charging. A quick plug and tap, in my opinion, is the way to go. Some stations even let you punch your phone number into the screen and they'll text you the receipt. I love it. So, plugs. NACS, now J3400, is the new North American standard, the USB-C. CCS is the outgoing one, the lightning cable. J1772 handles everyday level 2. CHAdeMO is the fading micro USB, and adapters bridge the gap while we transition. And plug and charge is the tap and go future. Now, what's actually inside the battery? We'll keep this at the surface, just enough to know why two cars behave differently. Almost every EV battery today is lithium ion. That's the family name. The differences that matter to you are in the recipe, and there are really two you'll see on spec sheets. And there are blends of the two, but we're just going to keep it simple. The first is NMC, nickel, manganese, cobalt. It packs a lot of energy into a small, light package, so you'll find it in a lot of longer range trims. The trade-off is cost. Those materials aren't cheap. There's a lot more to it than that though. I've got a bunch of videos digging into this, so go check them out. The second is LFP, lithium iron phosphate. It's cheaper, it lasts a lot more charge cycles, and it's happier being charged to 100% regularly, which NMC isn't. The catch, and this matters up here, LFP tends to lose more range in the cold. It's showing up in more and more standard range cars, so if you're in a cold climate, it's worth knowing which chemistry you're getting. You might also see NCA or NMCA, a close cousin of MMC, and it's nickel, cobalt, aluminum. Used in some Teslas, same general idea, energy dense. Mostly, you just don't want the acronym to be a mystery. Sodium ion or NACan, a newer one you'll start hearing. The pitch is cheaper materials than lithium and better cold weather behavior, both a big deal for us. But for now, it holds less energy, so less range per pound. It's starting to show up in entry-level cars. File it under cheaper batteries are coming soon. And the one everyone loves name dropping, solid state. It's the promised next step. More range, faster charging, but be a little skeptical of the hype. It's mostly not in cars you can actually buy yet, so when someone swears their next EV will have it, take that timeline with a grain of salt. So for the chemistry, the quick version is, it's all lithium, and the two names you'll mostly see are NMC, which is the energy dense, longer range, pricier one, and LFP, cheaper, tougher, happier at 100%, but weaker in the cold. And NCA is NMC's cousin, sodium ion is the cheaper newcomer, and solid state is the promise that isn't here yet. For your wallet, maybe the most important group, how long the battery lasts. This is where used EVs live or die. Batteries slowly lose capacity over the years. That's degradation. It's normal. It's usually gradual, and it's the single biggest thing that decides what a used EV is worth. The good news is modern packs hold up better than the horror stories suggest, but it's real. And it's why I've got a whole separate video on it. So again, if you want to check that out, it's on the channel. The number that measures it is state of health, the battery's capacity today versus when it was new, as a percentage. It's the odometer for the battery. If you buy used, state of health or SOH tells you more than the mileage does. You'll hear batteries rated in cycles. One cycle is a full charge's worth of energy, 0 to 100, or 2 half charges, same thing. It's a better measure of wear than age alone, because it's about how much you've actually used it. Batteries age two ways, from use, cycle aging, and just from time passing. calendar aging. So even a low mileage EV that mostly sat around gets a little older on the inside. Both are gentle if the car's treated well. It's just good to know that time counts too. Now remember that locked away slice from earlier? That buffer isn't just for show. It's part of what keeps degradation slow, by making sure you never truly fill or fully drain the pack. It's the car maker protecting the battery on your behalf. Big one for us up north, thermal management is whether the car actively heats and cools the battery, versus just letting it sit at whatever temperature it happens to be. Active systems protect the pack in extreme heat and help it fast charge in the cold. In a Canadian winter, this is a real difference maker, and something cheaper EVs sometimes skimp on. Preconditioning, related, and a term most new owners have never heard. That's the car warming the battery up before a fast charge or in cold weather so that it charges and performs properly. On a lot of EVs, you trigger it automatically just by setting the charger as your destination in your car's GPS. In winter, it's the difference between a genuinely fast charge and a frustratingly slow one. Battery warranty, the safety net. Most are around 8 years or 160,000 kilometers or 100,000 miles. And that is the part to actually read. They usually guarantee the battery will still hold at least 70% of its capacity in that window, so little degradation is expected and covered. Falling off of a cliff is not. Always check your terms before you buy and stay charged.